Hello, collective. We are here for the Divine Air Swords energetic reading. All right. And if you watch the Pentacles reading, this is all under the umbrella of the Magician, because the Magician utilizes all four elements and wields them to his benefit, his ability to manifest. All right. When we try to manifest from a place of lack, then we become manipulative. If we try to use magic on anything outside of ourselves, that's black magic. Alright, so this is about white magic. It's about fixing ourselves. So if you're here, you know, I don't do gossip. Like if you're looking to shift somebody else's energy, particularly in a divine union reading, and I say this because swords energy is the most tumultuous of the energies, right? And I think because it's air energy, which is masculine, it's very masculine energy, but it is, as an element, but ethereal, 5D, the ethers, that kind of, that elemental energy is very feminine. So I think that there's a lot of push-pull between, you know, as with everything, trying to keep balance between the masculine and the feminine. And so when we are talking about a divine path, that is following our heart, right? And our heart and our crown, right? Our crown is in our head and our heart is in our chest. But when we get into a place of swords energy, it's about putting mind over matter, right? It's about challenging the 3D. It's about challenging the ego so that we are able to open up that space for source to come in and channel through us and download into us our truth, right? Which is like an upload, because we are the universe within and without, right? So there is that kind of conundrum of air feeling very exterior, but we come from that. So it's also, it just seems very tumultuous when we're trying to align our head and our heart, because in our physical body, the head is here, the heart is here, right? But when we're talking about the proverbial heart, right, we have to make decisions with our mind, right, and our intuition. So it's like our intuition is also our gut feeling. It's following the heart, but we also have to come into a place of intellectual intuition, right? Knowing what's best for ourselves, particularly for children of chaos that are on this path of being divine cycle breakers. Our intuition has been corrupted, right? We don't know what to trust. Our heart has been wounded. We've got that 3 of Swords energy, right? Leave it. Thank you. They're doing yard work next door. And yeah, it's a little Gemini out there for you, which is where we're going to start. So typically, whenever we are talking, I don't know if you watched the Pentacles reading, but mutable energy, all right, the zodiac signs are split up between 4 elements and 3 modalities, and that those modalities are supporting energies for the sun sign of the individual, right? Or for the elemental sign of the individual. And so we have mutable, which is about discernment. It's about knowing that balance, because mutable is air and water. It's about that current. That's the epitome of the head and the heart, the masculine intellectual air energy and the feminine feeling intuition, right? They're both intuition and they're both the head and the heart, right? Sometimes we have to listen to the crown, the third eye, right? These are very feminine signs, but they're also very heady, literally in our head. So finding that balance between masculine and feminine energy, particularly with Gemini energy, because they are like the internal twins. And so when you're trying to attract a divine partner and you've got this duality playing tug of war within you, it can be very difficult to attract someone who's going to balance you out. You have to balance your own divine feminine or masculine energy prior to, and it's the same ingredients, different recipes, right? We all have masculine and feminine. So this is finding the right recipe for you, and then that way you know what ingredients to bring to the table with your person, right? And you know what ingredients you maybe don't have that you need for, it's a different recipe when you bring two individuals together, right? So energetically speaking with masculine and feminine, mutable is the duality of both. It's about discernment, and that's the struggle, is choosing when to go, when to stay, right? Masculine is active and goes. Feminine is gentle and stays. It's nurturing and it stays. It's passive. It's not passive aggressive. It's passive, right? It allows, it receives, where the masculine pursues. And this isn't runner chaser. It's not that Hollywood twin flame dynamic that we're talking about. Nobody should be running or chasing. The divine union is when the individuals are both ready to give and receive, when they're ready to reciprocate, when they're both emotionally regulated and prepared for this union, and what energetic burden that's going to call in, because it's a welcomed burden, right? It's not a burden that is put upon you by anyone else. It's a choice. It's a choice to carry that, the weight and the magnitude of a divine union, because the collective influence that the two individuals in a divine union pair, a power couple, are going to have, the influence that a power couple is going to have on the collective is monumental, right? It's going to be very important work that these two individuals are going to be doing. It's spiritual work, it's cycle breaking. So they're going to be teachers and students of this, and they're going to be cycling that information out into the collective, and that will reverberate back in, right? So there's a constant play between masculine and feminine in all things. It's an all energy, right? Destruction and creation. It's within everything. Sorry, I have a little bit of a headache right now. So I took my glasses and I took my hair down because I don't know, I just have a headache. So hydrating. Make sure that you're hydrating as well. I'm gonna go ahead and take a sip and take my own advice. And that moves us into Aquarius, right? Aquarius is not a water sign, it is an air sign, right? But they are the water bearer. So they lean more toward the feminine energy, but they're also fixed energy, right? So they have this kind of trifecta. So the mutable signs all have this kind of trifecta of the masculine and feminine, and then the fixed air and fixed water, Scorpio and Aquarius, also have that kind of dichotomy going on, that trifecta of masculine and feminine energy at play, and being very misunderstood and unique, right? Like a star, a snowflake, right? You're very unique. And that fixed energy calls for discipline, right? This is the most tumultuous space, the discipline of the mind, right? Mind over matter. When you're talking about overcoming the challenges of the ego and the lower vibrations and the shadow aspects of yourself, the fixed energy is really challenging because you have to stay the course, right? The star is about the ultimate wish, right? When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Just keep going, right? And so fixed energy is the central point of the seesaw, right? So we have this kind of mutable energy sort of playing between the two counterpoints, right? And the inertia is the fire cardinal energy, right? Cardinal signs, maybe you're seeing the bird cardinals around, or the sports team, or anyway. But cardinal, the modality of cardinal signs is the leader. Cardinal signs are the leaders. Now, when we're talking about a fractured ego, when we're talking about a broken heart, this Three of Swords, disappointment, being a child of chaos, our intuition, gaslighting, manipulation, abuse, neglect, right? When you're talking about things like that, trying to balance the head and the heart is very difficult. So that's why with shadow work, we move backwards. All right, so instead of letting that cardinal energy fuel us before we've done that feminine introspective work, right, we're going to do it backwards. So we move into that, and cardinal energy is the decision, right? So typically when you have a balanced ego, when you have balance in your discernment, then you know when to go, when to stay, so you can initiate, you can make that decision. But if you're talking about a fractured ego, a fractured intuition, someone who is disrupted in that heart space, the heart space, which is a combination of the head and the heart, proverbial and physiological, right? If you're looking at biological, or if you're looking at, you know, the terrestrial or the celestial, doesn't matter. Everything is a mirror, right? So what we see is the head in the 5D, the crown, the third eye, right? Whatever we see as being that ethereal head space in the 3D is actually very intellectual, right? It comes into needing to see facts, right? Versus, so it's here, right? When we look through these eyes, it's different than when we look through this eye, all right? Because we see through this eye, we look through this eye. This eye, these eyes, they seek, and this one sees, all right? This is just apropos for this particular energetic reading, but yeah. So I'm always kind of branching off, and then coming back to the trunk somewhere along the way. But here, with this air energy, it's going to be even more kind of all over the place. So bear with me, or don't. Free will. Okay. So we start with Gemini, we start with the mutable energy, all right? With any of the elements, with magician, fractured ego, breaking a cycle, we start backwards and we work our way in so that we can guide ourselves back out, right? Because we have to go within to really activate. Because if we just activate without having gone in, we're going to attract lack mentality, we're going to attract all of these anxiety, we're going to attract very guarded, burned out, overwhelmed energy. Okay, so if that's the energy that you're in, then you're in that fixed energy. That's a decision. So if you're blocked from that's discipline, and so if you're blocked there, then there's a need to return to self, return to source, tap back into that earth energy, of that fixed energy. Fixed is earth. Tap back into that earth energy of the physical body, and that always loops back, right? They all mirror each other, so that loops you back into the Four of Swords. All right. So if you're really overthinking, where's my person? Where's my abundance? You're feeling this lack mentality. You're feeling this burnt out, blocked energy, the lack of communication between the self. And if you're worried about communication with another person, it doesn't matter. Lack of communication with self is going to mirror out, and like attracts like. So you're going to be, if you're not communicating well and in a balanced way with yourself, you're not going to be communicating well or balanced with anybody else. You don't want to attract anybody at that point either. So you want to get into a place over here, which is more balanced, before you start to even try to incorporate any other energy. So if you try to incorporate energy into a blocked space, then it's going to be an overflow, right? It's like putting more food in a blocked garbage disposal, right? It's just going to make a mess. So this is the Four of Swords. Fours are about balance, all right? It's also wielding all four of the elements so that you can tap into that fifth element of consciousness, right? Of Lilu. And really getting into that place of groundedness, right? You've got all of the masculine and feminine balance there with the Four of Swords. In the mind, right? It's also, swords are breath, it's communication, and it's thought, right? So thoughts are communications with self and what we send out, right? If we're not sitting in silence and meditating and acknowledging our thoughts, we're going to just send that out and we're going to communicate it out. So when we breathe in, all right, we always breathe in, and then there's a pause at the top of each breath and a pause at the bottom of each breath, right? So at the top of an inhale and at the bottom of an exhale, where we have this moment of patience and we create balance. So this is like box breathing, meditation. This is bringing a balance and a synchronicity between, and a good practice for this. Let me see, because I have some yoga poses for each of the signs. Oh my gosh. That was a hot mess. I have all these feathers that I put over here because I have a fan going. They just started flying around. Wow, this is like really, the energy is really matching this reading. The Four of Swords is about balancing our thought, our incoming information, which is it's the inhale. It's the information that we receive from everything around us. And then we, at the top, in that pause, we take that information and then we have a thought. We develop a thought when we pause at the top of an inhale. And then when we exhale, we're sending that thought out. All right. And then at the bottom of that exhale, we're waiting to receive it. Okay. And now the waiting to receive it part is where we start getting into this tumultuous energy of anxiety because there's impatience. And if you've ever done box breathing, you know, right? Or if you've ever held your breath underwater, right? It's the, if you blow out all of your bubbles, there's a little bit of a comfort if you have an inhale and you're underwater and you're holding your breath with lungs full of air. But when you exhale and you have expressed all of that air, right? If you are over communicating, if you send out a lot of information, that's that chasing, over explaining yourself to those who are not listening at all. So, and this can happen within, right? So this is regulating that within. So when you send all that information out, that pause at the bottom where you feel empty, like you have nothing, physiologically you still have oxygen in your blood, but you feel like your lungs are empty. That's where you can really get into a lack mentality. So if you're dealing with any sort of Five of Swords energy, you feel blocked, you feel like you're lacking, you feel like there's an abundance of swords, of thoughts, of communication with self, right? Overthinking, over analyzing. This is that pause. See, they're just sort of ready to receive. This is tapping into the water aspect of the mutable modality of Gemini. This is that feminine aspect. Feminine energy is where we guide ourselves in. So it's a form of leader and teacher. It's a form of leadership and teaching, but it's coming within. It's receiving information. So you're pausing at the top. This is the pause at the top of the breath and the pause at the bottom of the breath, right? Where you're in that waiting space, where you're using your discernment, you're balancing your discernment of the masculine and feminine, all right? Because both of those are feminine, right? You've received information and now you're observing it at the top. And you're deciding, okay, like what information am I going to send out? And then when you exhale it out and you're at that bottom of the breath, you're waiting to receive the next inhale. So if you're dealing with an individual, all right, when you're dealing with self, this is observing your thoughts, observing your surrounding, your immediate surroundings, your physical body, your physical home space, and just observing it, right? Practicing silence, practicing the waiting, practicing the feminine aspect of just observing and waiting to receive information. And then you can make decisions based on that. But if you're making decisions before you've done the feminine work, then you're going to be, again, you're going to be attracting indecisive energy around you, right? So if you're trying to talk with somebody, you're over-explaining yourself, you're waiting for a message, you're blocked from communication, then that individual is somebody to observe as a mirror of what you have going on within, all right, and why you're attracted to that. So there's a lot of work to be done in life, but in this Four of Swords energy, because you're healing, you're bringing another sword in, another new, and swords, Ace of Swords is a new way of thinking, a new way of communicating. So this is bringing in another sword to communicate with your heart space in a new way. So this is balancing the head and the heart, all right? You're listening to it. So if you're receiving individuals who are non-reciprocal, if you're receiving a lot of negative self-talk thoughts, where is that coming from? Because you're inhaling it from the external, right? You're bringing that air into your lungs from the external, all right? And the external is a mirror of the internal. So why are you receiving that? And that's the Queen of Swords, all right, which is more Libra energy, but that's the feminine, again, is not passive in a way that is inactive. Just because masculine is active doesn't mean that passive is completely inactive or without work, right? It sometimes takes more work because you have to really hold your ground to be the Queen of Swords. This is about cutting out all the shit that does not serve you. This is about pulling those swords out of your heart and, I don't know, donating them to Goodwill for swords. This is return to sender, right? You have to go into a place of return to sender and just not accepting anything that does not serve you, right? So she's got that Ace of Swords, and she's saying, all right, I'll observe what you have to say. You're observing the incoming information, and at the top, you're realizing what that incoming information is doing to your thoughts. And if you don't like those thoughts, you don't want to send them back out, because it's just going to keep that cycle going, and you're going to keep receiving that same negative self-talk. You're going to keep receiving information that confirms a lack mentality, a lack way of being and thinking and self-love, right? And so that's about how you think about yourself, your self-value. So you have to come into a place of being very, and this is a decision, right? She's decided, this is my standard, this is my threshold, I'll observe it, but if it doesn't meet my standard, it's got to go. And that's why the sword is there. All right, this is not manipulative energy. This is observant energy. All right, and that's the difference between manipulative energy is, especially if you're communicating with a particular individual or individuals, and you may have been taught this by your parents if you have narcissistic parents, which I'm sure every child of chaos that's interested in these readings and associates and aligns with these readings has at least one narcissistic parent or guardian. And they're struggling with the narcissistic world that we are in. But this individual, where was I just going with that? Oh, the narcissist and manipulative people give the silent treatment, right? They block, but then they'll still watch your story they'll still watch your page, they'll still drive by your house, they'll still open their phone and look for your text messages, right? Maybe they turn off read receipts, right? If this is in live communication and not online, right? This is giving the silent treatment, right? This is just going silent to get an outcome, a very conditional outcome. Now, when you are if you've been dealing with narcissistic energy, this is no contact, okay? This is not manipulative. This is doing what is right for the individual. This is saying, I'm not accepting that anymore because that hurts me. That does not serve me, and I am here to serve the collective. And I can't serve the collective if I am dealing with this energy. So this is no contact. Not to be confused with the silent treatment, which is a manipulative nonsense behavior of children. But the Page of Swords, and again, this is paying attention to what you're observing as well. So if you're dealing with the Page of Swords, keeping your energy protected, that return to sender, keeping your space very pure, right? You want the inhale of your energy to be very pure and sacred and clean. All right, so this is also in a literal sense, this is cleaning your air filters, right? This is keeping your house free from dust and debris. Cleanliness is next to godliness, right? But the Page of Swords is an individual who watches. So you're coming into an observant place, and if you turn this on the inside, right, you're observing yourself. So instead of wasting energy watching others and seeing what they're doing, right, the best way to tell if you're dealing with a narcissist is to watch your behavior, is to watch your feelings, is to watch your thoughts. So this is you staying in that Four of Swords, observing that, using that discernment of what serves me, what should I give energy to, what should I not give energy to. All right, and the Six of Swords is the number of the past, it's soulmate, it's love, number of 6, all right? It's also, it's the number of self, right? 6 of Wands is about giving self-love, all right? 6 of Pentacles is about coming into a partnership with others, right? It goes with that same old saying of, you cannot properly love somebody else until you properly love yourself, right? So this is learning your love language. This is also re-tapping into the past desires, all right? What thoughts did you have when you were not so influenced by others? And what did that look like? This is also leaving behind a lot of things. The other migrating from one island to another. You're leaving, right? And you know how you feel more lonely in a room full of people who don't understand you? This is staying the course, and this is a masculine, a feminine, and a child, all right? You could have a family. This could be, divorce, leaving relationships, right? It could be that as well. When we're talking about the self, this is the divine trinity. This is the masculine, the feminine, and the creation, the child, all right? So this is the balance of that. It's really what kind of partner do I want to be? What type of partner do I want to attract? And what do I want us to create together? What do I see in my future? And when you, that mirrors the past. 6 mirrors the past. So this is you tapping into, there was a point in your life where you dreamed up this reality of being in a place where you were understood and being with individuals who understood you. And you have to go within and understand yourself before you can expect anybody else to understand you. All right, so we've got the star. So once you go within, you do that inventory. Mutable energy, Virgo energy, the Hermit, the Hanged Man for Pisces, and Temperance for Sagittarius, right? All the mutable signs are about self-inventory. It's about really evaluating the self, looking deep into the past. This is the heaviest part of the shadow work. This is why we start here, because this is going really deep within and looking at your circumstances. And you can always utilize the other mutable signs here, right? That's the beauty of modalities and energy, is as the magician particularly, is that you can loophole into the other mutable signs, right? So maybe you have other energies, maybe you have fire in your chart, right? You don't have to be a Gemini to be going through Gemini energy, but maybe you have Gemini in your chart, maybe you have a mutable sign in your chart, maybe you're dealing with mutable energy all around you. And so instead of giving energy to low frequency mutable energy, you can give it to yourself, and that's where you can utilize water, air, earth, and fire. So you can loophole into the other ones, so that you are able to really be a magician of your own energy, of your own chart of, and if you don't have mutable signs in your top 3, or mutable is air and water. You have air and water in your top 3, I'm sure, right? And if you don't have air and water in your top 3, again, you can segue into, say you are a Leo, right? That's fixed fire. That's earth and fire. So maybe you don't have any water or air, but you can tap into the fire energy by loopholing through mutable energy into Sagittarius, which is fire, and then that can help you understand Leo energy more, right? Which would tap you into your heart space, your solar plexus, right? So if you're trying to follow that heart space, that's how you can kind of wormhole your way through this process, is by just really looking at the feminine and masculine aspect of all the energies, of all the elements, and all the modalities, which are just elemental energies. Anyway, so yeah. So back to the star, and again, maybe you don't understand that aspect, but say you are a Leo, or a Scorpio, or a Taurus, you're another fixed sign, you can loophole into Aquarius energy through your fixed modality, and you can really tap into that earth energy. Fixed is earth, right? So if you get earth in your chart, you can always tap into fixed energy. It's like the other signs are like your brothers and sisters, right? Your chart is like your tribe. And so tribes understand this, right? Indigenous peoples understand this. They understand the strengths and the weaknesses of the men, the women, the children, the elders, right? They understand these, who's good at what, who's the most proficient at what. Someone's better at climbing trees than somebody else. Someone's faster. Children are very good at understanding this as well, right? They know who is the fastest, right? And who can jump the highest, right? Because they've explored these things from a non-judgmental place, because it's not about that. We start to get into a place of judgment to where we become competitive, right? So this is, if you're dealing with competition outside of yourself, then, and you don't feel understood by other people, and you're wondering, where's my tribe, where's my family, where's my people that I'm going to be understood by, like, what island am I going to? You're going to your own island, the XX. Ding, 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 that song, Islands. That's VCRs. Anyway, I can't think of the lyrics to that because I've got VCRs in my head. But anyway, where was I going with that? Anyway, you can tap into your own tribe. You're creating your own tribe. That's what shadow work is. You're creating this family within. So maybe you know your whole chart, maybe you don't. Doesn't really matter. You can create through your imagination, through your third eye, right? Through this ethereal way of using air, taking yourself out of this 3D, this terrestrial, egocentric reality, and put yourself into a place that's a more dreamy, more imaginative, right? This is, it's getting more into imagination, right? And it's watching things on VCRs, and then I'm thinking, take a look, it's in a book reading rainbow, right? So like, you can really come into a place here if you are having trouble balancing your own thoughts, if you have too many thoughts going on, too much communication that's conflicting, right? This individual is having trouble tapping into their third eye, right? They're blinded and they're bound by their situation. They've got all these other thoughts from past people in their life, right? A lot of trauma, right? And verbal abuse and neglect and negative talk. So lies that were put upon you. And so you are rewriting that. So you could be, this could be where you would want to, in fixed energy, earth energy, this is that really very feminine, nurturing, grounded place, like earth energy is, when it's balanced and it doesn't become hedonistic. This is about comforting yourself. This is about tapping into creative space, right? Aquarius energy is very creative, very musical, arts, poetry, right? Maybe you're reading a lot, or you're watching movies, or you're, going to plays or concerts, right? You're really tapping into, and that's after you've gone into the past of what did I actually want? Whatever I'm doing doesn't serve my heart and my true heart space. So this is where you really tap into what, fuck the outside, forget the external, forget the lies that someone told me I wasn't good enough, I wasn't a good writer or singer or dancer, or I would never do XYZ, or I should find something that is safe and structured and would get me a lot of money. But maybe you've done that and that's not serving you. Maybe you want to get into photography. Maybe you want to get into something with the arts. That's Aquarius energy. That's earth energy, right? That's very getting into the feminine energy of creation, right? So what you want is to create with others, but first you have to create with self, all right? So you have to get into a place where you're creating things that fulfill you so that you can attract others who are doing similar things and you can support each other. Right? And it's not competitive. It's not from a place of who's doing better. And maybe you come from something that's very competitive. Your childhood, your workspace, past relationships, it's all competitive. This is about finding balance with yourself and not looking at past versions of yourself as a way to compare to where you are now, right? Or looking at future, not using your imagination to look at future versions of yourself, to neglect where you are now. So fixed energy is the now, right? It's the discipline. It's just going through the faith-based motions, right? It's not going through the motions for somebody else. It's going through the motions for yourself. It's holding yourself accountable. So you've done an inventory. This is holding yourself accountable for what you said you wanted. You wanted a creative, abundant, understanding, loving, nurturing space. So this is where you're creating that. Right? Because this is, when you do that, this is a lot of discipline leads to discernment, right? Here, you're going through the evaluation, right? You're going through the discernment process first, and then you're coming back. This is going through the discipline afterward, right? But it's also simultaneous, right? Because it's not linear. Nothing is linear about the divine path. But this is sort of making it as linear as you can, right? It's keeping your eye on the prize, right? Keeping your eye on the wish that you asked for. These cards are so cool, but they're kind of hard to see with the light. Hard to see with the light. Yeah, blinding lights. The Weekend, Love and Other Drugs, which Jake Gyllenhaal is a Sagittarius, and Anne Hathaway is a Scorpio, I believe. So this is very much, and so in this time, yeah, you're going to be, if you've done this Queen of Swords, maybe you've cut out family members. This energy is all of those things that you were misunderstood, you knew they didn't serve you. Now you're really dealing with those, and you're learning to love all aspects of yourself unconditionally, right? You're coming from a very conditional upbringing, and a very conditional space. So this is coming into an unconditional space, and that's where you discover faith. So your faith is going to be challenged, right? You're going to have intrusive thoughts as you block out the 3D, and you just focus on the 5D. You just focus on the third eye, what is unseen. This is where you're really tapping into faith, and you're going to have a lot of doubters, a lot of haters, past versions of yourself that are going to be telling you you're not worthy of this wish that you've sent out into the universe, that you've requested. You're going to have, it's going to feel like a fight. You may have to actually go through that. It's going to be like spiritual warfare anyway, but you may be literally dealing with people in your world that are like trying to pick a fight with you. They're sending words, people may be very nasty to you, right? When you think about, there's going to be a lot of rejection as well with 5 of Swords. You're going to be rejected a lot. So you leave it. Thank you. And 7 of Swords is going to be reflecting on those rejections. So you're going to be like, if you're in a place where you don't see the turnout, you don't see the 3, and I just did a video on affirmations, right? So if you're not seeing, right, seeing is believing. No, believing is seeing when you're talking about shadow work and manifesting. You have to believe it, and you have to make I am statements. It has to be so real in your imagination before it comes into your reality, into your relative reality, into the 3D. And that's a very challenging place, especially when you're dealing with a lot of negative self-talk and lies that were put upon you. Telling yourself new truths, this is the most challenging part of it, right? Looking at all this stuff, the inventory isn't easy, but it's just kind of like admitting you have problems. This is where you're actually continuing to stay the course, the treatment course, so that you are able to create from a new place, right? And if you are, and not being able to see because the light is so bright, yeah, this is where with affirmations, with which is very much like devil energy, Capricorn energy. I was also thinking like the holidays, right? If you cut people out of your life, you could be going through this time like with Sagittarius and Scorpio, right? That's kind of like coming up on the holidays. Capricorn is Christmas time, right? It's also, Christ's birthday, some say. And so it's very much like this spiritual warfare between good and evil within yourself, right? It's that keeping the faith and maintaining the faith while you're not seeing this thing you've dreamed up. And the holidays can be very struggling. There can be struggling. The holidays can be a major struggle in this process because you may be doing it alone, right? You may be... Leave it. Thank you. You may be doing it alone. The divine path is a solitary path until you come into divine union. You may have a couple of people in your life, but the further down this path you go, the more likely you are to see that no one really has your best interest but you. Others might just be interested, so they might be false supporters. So you're dealing with a lot of competitive, jealous, blocked energy, tit for tat, non-reciprocal, conditional thoughts within and without. And the more that you see them without, because that demonic energy, that vampiric energy is going to try and attack you more and more, because the more that you're on that course towards God, which is truth. So whatever nomenclature you attribute to truth, I attribute the term God, all right? The closer you get to God, and I only say that because we're in air energy, so I feel like a lot of very literal, scientific, atheist, You know, you might be spiritual, but religious terms might really bother you. You might come from a very conditional religious upbringing. And so, yeah, spiritual terms, I feel like, tend to bother air energy a lot. I'm gonna get my cord because my phone's about to die. Okay. And also thinking about the holidays, you know, you're rewriting traditions, you're breaking ancestral karma, you're breaking old cycles of your own and familial cycles, right? So this is a very challenging place where you have to keep your energy sacred. So there's a lot of temperance going on in this place, right? In the star, right? There's a lot of staying tapped into source, and your ego is going to be very challenged. That mind over matter, balancing your thoughts, balancing your breath. You're going to have to keep, it's not like, oh, I've done this, check, now I can move on to the next step. You're just taking those tools and you're continuing to work on the project, right? You're building a whole new house. And you're using some old material and you have to find a new creative way to kind of upcycle it, right? And so that's what you're doing here. There's going to be, you'll be under attack, essentially, right? In the physical world, right? People are going to be messaging you or reaching out to you. And when you're in this place, the closer you get to God, the closer the devil gets to you, right? And that's within as well, right? If you're going through any sort of sobriety, you're going to be really tested in this place. The discipline area is very, very challenging for those who are trying to stay tapped into source, right? And so you're going to have to keep going back to what you know, keep observing, keep analyzing. The magician is like a scientist, right? It's a spiritual scientist. So you're moving things around and you're seeing what works, you're seeing what fits, what doesn't. You're taking notes, right? You're annotating, and then you are organizing, right? You're organizing your puzzle. You're finding the right solution. So it's like you're like the mathematician, you're a scientist, right? You're the teacher, you're the student, you're all of these things. That's what the magician is. It's the energetic, and see that infinity symbol, right? It's the elementalist, right? You're wielding all of these elements, you're wielding all of these energies, and that is how you become an emperor and empress, because the emperor and the empress are the culmination of all the divine masculine and divine feminine energies. And that's when they're ready to come into union, all right? You may meet your twin flame in this process, but you're not ready to come into divine union until you've mastered the magician, okay? And so you can come together, but you're going to be in that runner-chaser dynamic. All divine unions are twin flames, but not all twin flames reach divine union, right? Because it's up to the individual. We have free will. All right, so justice is Libra energy. This is cardinal. This is the karmic balance. All right, and so yeah, you're with this lack mentality of the fixed energy of dealing with the discipline. I keep wanting to say disciplinary, but it is, and you may feel like that. You may feel like a rebellious teenager with God, you know, with source, with self. You may just be like a lot of, you know, why do I deserve this? This doesn't make sense. Woe is me, wounded warrior. A lot of that, right? But this is a reminder, justice is a reminder that you are rebalancing a lot of karmic cycles, not just your own. The karmic cycle, depending on how you view that or how you view past lives or ancestral karma, you're balancing your own stuff, right? But it is, again, you're using old materials. So you're repurposing, refinishing, refurbishing. This is like all the work that you're doing. And you may have to also go to the hardware store and buy some new tools, right? And buy some new materials. And you may have to burn some of the old wood because it's got termites in it, right? So you're, that's the analogy that I'm getting right here, or the metaphor that I'm getting is building a house. All right, you're building a whole new home on your own little island. And your house is your home, your body is your home, right? So this is really nurturing, this is where we live, right? As terrestrial beings, this is where we live. We live in our head, mind over matter, right? What we think becomes our reality. What we say becomes our reality. So our words and our thoughts are, you know, they don't call it spelling for no reason, right? So this is, you're going to have to do a lot of spell work, white magic spell work on the self to eliminate the old and welcome the new. But as a terrestrial being, as a biological being, you're cut from the cloth of others. So you have to deal with that fabric, right? And so you're going to be dealing with, maybe your dad's a Leo. I keep getting Leo energy here. I get Leo energy a lot, just because it is heart space, it's the sun, which is what I associate with God on the 3D plane, right? Because that's, it's the celestial body that nurtures this earth that we're on, and it leads and guides us, and it basically fuels everything, every living thing, except mushrooms. But anyway, that's not totally true, but we're not going to get into a lesson on that. But anyway, so yeah, maybe something with vitamin D, tapping into the sun, with the star that is the sun of our solar system, right, is the sun. So it is the central focus of our solar system. It's the center of our universe. We have this infinity symbol here. So it's really tapping into the crown chakra. It's really tapping into aligning our head with our heart in the 3D and the 5D, right? So this is managing our thoughts, managing our communication, managing our affirmations, our manifestations, our spell work, right? That's the magician. It's heavy work, and air energy is a big part of that, because it is like the unseen mediator. It's the unseen current of the in-between us and above, right? And so it's like this, it's the water of the sky. I'm thinking the moon. Well, I'm thinking a lot of things are coming in. So I'm just gonna move along because, yeah, I want to keep this to a reasonable time frame. So justice, Libra, cardinal energy, that is the decisive energy. This is where you say, and if you start with the decision, because it takes a decision to cut things out of your life, right? And that Queen of Swords is also kind of Libra energy, right? Libra and Aquarius energy. And then Empress is also Libra, right? It's Libra and Taurus. So again, that's balance between the sky and the earth. And then there's fire in there with that cardinal energy. So the water is, I think why I was getting that water is because the moon, and see, this is the unseen. So the unseen current, immutable energy exists in the sky and the water, right? Birds and fish, flying fish. What is that, ever after? A bird may love a fish, signore, but where will they live? And he said, well, then I shall have to make you wings, right? This is adapting to and sort of loopholing into another element, using a medium that you understand, that you understand, which is the current,
it's the unseen. This is a lot of trust. And it takes a lot of faith to make this decision. With the Two of Swords, this is the fork in the road. This is making the ultimate decision of the past, maybe the past behind you, and taking on a new sword, an Ace of Swords, moving forward, right? A new form of communication with self, with God, with all those around you, right? And don't underestimate the importance of body language. And so what you have to do here is bring it to a 10 of Swords, right? Whenever you're in lack mentality, you round that 5 up to a 10, just like you would in math. Round that 5 up to a 10, end it, and you get a 1. 10 is a 1. It's a new beginning. And so it's an ending and a new beginning. So if you want a new beginning, if you want that Ace of Swords, right, you're going to drop one sword, you're going to take on a new sword, you have to bring it to an end. Something has to come to an end. And the 10 of Swords, see, they're like on the ground, face down, ass up. That's the way you like to. This is an individual who's had repeated cycles of 5 of Swords, of disappointment, of blocked energy, of deception, right? This is taking all of that energy and just putting it behind you. Because otherwise it's going to keep sneaking up on you from behind if you don't put it behind you. And so that's the moon energy, and water energy can be the unseen, right? It's all about feelings. And so air energy is very important when you're talking about coming out of 3 of Swords energy, right? This is that primary block between the lovers, the divine union, right? And the mirrored card to this is the devil, that Capricorn devil energy. It's the lower vibration, it's the condition. The individuals are bound to each other with a chain. And that's what this is. This is being bound. This is toxic cycles. This is trauma bonding. This is conditional love, right? If you really want to open that heart space, you want to open that heart chakra, really allow that star within you to shine, and open yourself up to God love, which is unconditional love, then sometimes in this process, you have to take what you've been given, right? Again, this is like taking what you've been given from your parents, from past lovers, all those deceptions. You take those and you use those swords as notes, right? It's like a profiler, a crime scene investigator, a detective, right? It's like they're like little thumbtacks that you put in your little notes on the way. And the one that you're trying to find is yourself. But you committed no crime. Oh no, you committed no crime. That's not a song, but it should be. And so this is you releasing the disappointments, the cycles of disappointments, and that stabbing in the back, and putting it behind you, putting the lack of clarity, right? See how that moon is, it's not full. Is it waxing? Is it waning? Are they coming? Are they going? If this is you dealing with past energy, indecisive, non-reciprocal energy, that's maybe you're dealing with a water sign, this is you putting that behind you, right? There's no half in or half out, right? So this is you coming into Ace of Swords. So that's the process of justice, right? If you really want to balance, see how this individual has one sword, just like the Queen of Swords. It's all decisions. This is my decision. This is my standard. That's what a decision is. It's a standard. A lot of us don't make decisions because we don't feel worthy of what comes from that decision. So we don't set a firm boundary because we feel like we're not worthy of that. But the King and Queen of Swords, they don't have 2 swords in their hand. They have 1 sword. Together, they bring 2 swords, right? So that they can help each other be decisive. And who is that? Kill Bill. They can ward off all the this isn't about vengeance. I don't condone vengeance. Leave it behind you. But I do love that movie. Those movies. Kill Bill. Which has got the double swords. I just love that. Off with their heads. You know, getting that kind of like... but that is what a divine union... You come in and you... The two individuals in a divine union are familiar... They feel like home, but they're not familiar like past energy that you've ever dealt with before. So if you're dealing with somebody who feels familiar because you recognize it from your past, that's toxic cycles, right? That's that time. So you need to bring an end to that, because it's going to be a toxic cycle. It's going to sneak up on you from behind when you least expect it. But a divine union, you do help protect each other, right? The divine feminine helps protect the heart of the masculine helps protect the body, the physical of the feminine, right? And you have that duality, that mirroring, that divine balance within each other, within each individual, that you can help uplift the other, or you can shift into your more masculine energy when the masculine needs it, and the masculine can shift into the feminine when the feminine needs it, right? You kind of do that, and that's the new cycle that you're coming into with that infinity symbol. It's the new karmic cycle, the new path that you guys are also like this machete, right? You're creating a new path. No one's ever been down this path before, not in your past, and that's why you're the chosen one to do it. Aren't you glad you incarnated to do this? Because you chose this path, and this is you charging forward. All right, once you make that decision, this is the decision. You go with it. And then comes the discipline. Then you have the discipline, discernment, right? You're going to constantly be mirroring back and forth and jumping back and forth to maintain this momentum. But if you're dealing with somebody, when you reach this point of making the decision and releasing the past and cleansing that root chakra, right? Eliminating all of the clutter, right? All of this mind clutter of the 8 and the 9, because you brought it into the 10. 10 is 1. Now you can move forward, and this also puts you on a frequency where you call somebody in who pursues you. Okay? So the feminine is pursued, the masculine pursues. So you know which one you are. Let's just see what's at the bottom of the deck. Knight of Cups. Page of Cups. Yeah, there might be some... Now, the Empress is not going to accept a page or a knight, right? This is not some Hollywood movie where the Queen has an affair with Richard Gere. This is... who I believe is a Virgo. This is... a divine feminine and divine masculine, and they do not settle, they do not accept or pursue anybody else but their divine counterpart. They're equal, all right? Because you cannot create, and why would you want to invite some little, you know, apologetic, emotionally unstable individual into your empire that you've worked your ass off to build? You wouldn't. But they're going to come in, right? That's just the way of it. Like the past will always come back. And we're in retrograde right now. We're always in some retrograde, but we're in Saturn retrograde, which means a lot of the shadows, the lower vibrations, attachments, past energy, right? That's Saturn, Devil, Capricorn energy is kind of a, and you may want to look what sign is in your Saturn. We're also in Leo season, so maybe that's why I'm getting so much Leo. If you're not a Leo or dealing with a Leo, or you know, have it heavy in your chart, that's the season that we're in. So that's really the work that we're doing, but we're using air and swords energy to to really empower our inner magician, and that way we can, you know, keep this moving. So there's a lot of fire energy. There's like active energy, which is the masculine counterpart to air. Air and fire are masculine, and water and earth are feminine. So hopefully there was something in here for you. Thank you for bearing with me if you watched this whole video. Yeah, this is a lot of stressful energy. And if you want to follow me over on Instagram or just peek over there and be a Page of Swords, you can do that too. My profile is public, same name, Vegan Terrorist, but I'm doing practical reels, so they're just 90-second reels talking about a practical application of each zodiac sign and a yoga pose or practice, something related to yoga that goes with each one as well. So if you want a more clear, concise, simple, time conducive energy work tap into, I can't even think of words right now. Jesus. If you want that, come check me out over there. If not, either way, I wish you well.